UnDaoDu. Undo people with a smile and a laugh. Dao, help those around you, your parents, your friends, your teacher. Dao's help. And finally, do's, serve. They serve their family humbly, and their community, and their country, and more importantly, the planet. Serving the planet and making it a better place. I'm UnDaoDu, and the Heartland of Zen, welcoming in the new sunrise and the land of the rising sun. I have been here for 20 years. I started on a project back in 2000 dealing with EDUIT, education using information technology. And EDUIT idea and vision was simple. Let's remove the teachers in schools from education and have it autonomously driven. That was the idea. Now, the idea didn't just come to me. What happened was in 2000, as part of a startup, I was working on the digital arena at a very, before the crash happened. We had put all our money into it. We had built a prototype. We're in the process of looking for investors, and the entire market crashed. I'd set up a nonprofit to provide scholarships to the students, which were high school students, to get them certification because they couldn't afford it. This was set up in Gaithersburg. And the vision for the digital arena was to become a McDonald's for IT certification in gaming. So we took gaming to attract them and then find the best of the brightest, get them certified and plug them in like young Marines into this brand new, exciting information technology era that we were entering. That had started in the 90s with the internet. And now it was just aflame. And when I got to Japan, I started teaching. And when I arrived in Japan in 2004, Nintendo DS, which is a double screen device, had just launched. And it was all the rage. Every kid had it. So I got educational programs, put it on it, right? And had children using it. And I have a whole playlist called the eSingularity Nexus, right? That you can watch me doing that. I started making videos on my other channel, right? About EDUIT. The other channel was EDUIT. This channel was Foundups because I pivoted from EDUIT into Foundups. So if you're wondering why I have two channels, that was the original idea. I had EDUIT on one channel, I had Foundups on the second channel. I wanted to keep them clear. Over time, that got muddied up, and I started doing both. I forgot, why I had the other one and just started Foundups everywhere. Foundups just infected everything. Well, I reached out to EDUCAUSE. I reached out to all these organizations and the help to come together and help me fund this vision of mine. Couldn't get anyone to support it. I met a great guy, and his name was Russell Clark's brother. And I can't think of Russell. I can't think of your brother, Clark, Mr. Clark. God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. He was an AI specialist working for DARPA, and he liked my vision. And we started working together. Unfortunately, he would pass away from ALS not long after, in the late 2000s. And but he was there to validate what could be done. And he says, well, there's this thing called Siri, and Siri came out of DARPA, and it could probably do everything you want it to do, So I started emailing and talking to Siri about, trying to partner with them with this crazy vision of mine. By then, something called the iPhone had come out, and I started using the iPhone in education. And I actually started making videos saying, Siri on top of this could do all of this, right? 6 months after, I started making talks, trying to get Apple's attention, because I was naive. I thought that, hey, be good was their motto for Google. Don't be evil, be good. It wasn't be good. Don't be evil was their model. My model's be good. And ultimately, 6 months later, Apple buys Siri, and it dashes my dream to it. I continued trying to raise interest and funding in EDUIT. It was a nonprofit, right? A 501c3 at the time. And I couldn't get it anywhere. So I thought to myself, is it me? I have an MBA master's in nonprofit management administration. Yeah, I'm in the sticks. I have, you know, I do not have access to closed capital networks, and that's my problem, right? There's no startup fund around here, and if there is, it's in Japanese, and I can't speak Japanese, right? Nothing about this. And ultimately, I asked this question: is the startup broken, and if so, how would I fix it? And I started doing research in the startup, and to my complete amazing, you know, like blow me away, Dave McClure had said, don't even do a startup, go work for McDonald's because you'll make more money at it. 90% of startups fail. Now he was referring to startups that have been seed invested. As an investor, he put money in, then 90% of those startups fail. So there is no data on the non-investors, right? The friends, family, just to get it going. But in looking, I came up with this number. No one's ever disproved it, but 99.7%, only 0.3% of pre-seed startups. And think of all I know how I got the number, because I looked at how many business plans actually got submitted and then how many were funded, right? That's how I came up with that number. And only like 0.3% were funded of business plans that are submitted into, into startups or businesses. An idea, startup is anything. I have an idea for a book, an idea for a restaurant. How many times do you have an idea and you never finish through or complete it? The idea of Foundups, which was a dyslexic mangling of founder and startup, when I was driving one time over there. I don't remember where it was. It happened over there. I had pulled together a couple guys, to start working on it. The idea, I'd set up a group, and we started working on it, working on the idea. And like a lot of times, I had this vision, and the other guy had a strong vision, and our visions kind of didn't mesh with what I wanted to do. They wanted to do something different as a launch thing, and maybe we could have done something different and launched it. But I ended up basically going my own way with Foundups. And in 2011, and this was good because I didn't have this part, Occupy Wall Street happened. And when Occupy Wall Street happened, it made me think about the realization that everything that we see today, you can say started as a startup, an idea. This idea launches and becomes this thing, right? So everything starts as an idea, an and then you get together, and of these right, 99% never make it to this, right? 90% of this fails. 90% of DAOs fail. They get initial funding from investors and stuff like that, seed investors, not VCs. And then when they do, of those 90%, the 10% that do succeed and they blossom into this beautiful startup, VC-backed startup, 70% are deemed failures because they don't cross the chasm, which I'm not going to get into. You can look it up, right? But this is 99% don't make it to this. All right, only 1%. I'll be conservative. 1% make it to this. 10% only make it to this, right? And the majority, 70% of these fail. I realized the startup was broken, and it wasn't just that. Was the entity itself? This idea of success equals access to closed capital networks. I'm not in a capital network here, right? I'm in a beautiful Zen countryside in the heartland of Zen, right? Surrounded by rice and flowers and beautiful sunsets. I'm living the life. But majority of the world, the billions of people out there, are having a tough time, and ultimately, they're having just as equal time as me, being a smart white guy with qualifications, with a track record. I'd launched one of the largest Shakespeare festivals from just an idea. I was fortunate to launch, and that became kind of a model. The Southern Shakespeare Festival in Tallahassee, Florida, that I launched as a college student, became kind of a template for this idea of Foundups, and for them to evolve into something new, right? So instead of a corporation, the Foundup evolves into, the idea evolves into a Foundup that blossoms into what I call now a distributive autonomous societies or entities, right? You can think of an entity. A Foundup is a decentralized autonomous entity, right? That blossoms into a distributive autonomous ecosystems, right? Where there's only three kinds of individuals. There are the founders of the Foundup, right? There are the collaborators of the Foundup, and then there are the consumers of the Foundup, right? The UnDaoDus and the do's. And the do's are the most important, right? Because they're the ones, if you don't have consumers of your Foundup, right? Or, then ultimately your idea can't manifest. So I went off chasing Dave McClure and all these people. Like, I've got it, right? And it's decentralized. There was no board members, everything else. It was built on something called Bitcoin. And I have a 2000 image, right, of the idea, and it moves around this track and launches as an open corp. That was my name for a DAO back then, right? And it was all built on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a blockchain. So the open corp is a DAO, right? If I have an image of Bitcoin going around and the outcome is an entity, it's a DAO, right? So years, 2 years went by, a year, 2010, it's around 2010, 11, year goes by, unfunded, everything else. 2011 was a horrible year for me. The tsunami happened, my wife stopped having sex with me, right? My marriage was frauding. I had a herniated back. I was on something called Lyrica, and I'd spent nearly 2 years trying to get Foundups going. I'd failed on Edgewit. I'd failed on Foundups. I'm just a failure. It's just me. I am the failure. I'm the one that's wrong. And I decided that I would walk over there to the beach early in the morning. I would walk from the house over there to the beach, and I would swim to China. Why would I do that? You said, why would I go and want to swim to China? Well, I figured being shark bait would best. I didn't want to leave a body for anyone to find and mourn over. I'd rather be a mystery. What happened to him? What happened to UnDaoDu? He just kind of disappeared. In fact, I wasn't UnDaoDu. I was still my identity, right? I hadn't shred that identity. I hadn't had the mind stigmata, as I called it. The stress mark, right, showed up here, and the line that appeared on my face, it's just probably stress, because I was going through a lot of stress. And I made my last video, and I was really upset. And I'd made the choice. I was gonna swim to China. So I made this video, and I went down, and I posted it. It was gonna be my last video. And then I started walking. And as I walked, I started thinking about my boys. And I started thinking about my boys. I realized I felt nothing. There she is, UnDaoDu. Nothing. And I thought, I was really curious. How am I not feeling anything about my boys? Whatever. I just felt this, like I was numb. I was just numb. Right? And I remembered I was on this thing called Lyrica. And I said to myself, hey, maybe it's this lyrical stuff that's making me, giving me a numbness where I don't care, right? So I turned around. I was halfway there. I remember where I turned around. I'd walk down here. I'd walk down there. Actually, no, I walked that way. I'm trying to remember on the thing. I walked around there. I was there. Yeah, I was literally I was on that road because I walked down, I was coming from that house, I walked down here, I walked down there, and I just got to near where the chicken farm was back then. Now it's apartments. And I you know, it was kind of drizzling. It was December 27th, and I turned around and I said, I'll just come back and let this stuff wear off. And when I came back, that's when I came back, and I looked in the mirror, and that's when I first saw that mark, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Why don't I have hair in a perfect circle right here? Just a perfect circle. And this line is like that. I don't know if you can see that line, you know, going around. Right? It was like the weird shit on my face. And I was like, I made a talk about the Mayans and how Foundups the Mayans was talking about Foundups. If you listen to my Mayan video, it's nothing about the Mayan. It's about Foundups. What I was communicating was Foundups is the change, right? I'd known, in my heart, I was like, this is it, Foundups. I had not seen this image yet, understand? I had just said, you know, and I started this new change with this corporation and the new entity, you know, and I kind of waffled on in the video like I'm waffling on right now. So I went online, I Googled, and you can do it yourself. You can Google Mayan circle, and this image showed up. And the moment I saw this image, what I saw was me, right? This is me struggling. Look, he's not in a very comfortable position. He struggles. He's on this foundation. He's struggling. Out of his head is OIF, the Open Innovation Framework. And then in the middle of it is the noodle, the AI that runs it. And I was like, how could this be? And there is the AI, emotionless, with, you know, no expression, staring out, you know. Here's OIF, the Open Innovation Framework. What I realized, because I hadn't, understand, this is 2011. The blockchain hadn't come out except for Bitcoin, which is, here's Satoshi, or Satoshi Nakamoto. Here's Satoshi, is Bitcoin, right? And I'm staring, and I'm staring at Bitcoin, and I'm staring right here, right? These two guys right here is who UnDaoDu is staring at. And I didn't know who this was, and I wouldn't name him UnDaoDu until 2016. So back then it wasn't UnDaoDu, it was just me staring. And I thought to myself, maybe it did subconsciously. I thought to myself, trying to block the wind here. It's kind of windy. The wind is coming up. I said, maybe these crazy Bitcoin guys will understand what I'm talking about. I didn't know about Bitcoin forums. I didn't know how to reach him. So I just Googled Bitcoin. And when I Googled Bitcoin, Bitcoin magazine was a thing that popped up, right? Back in 2011. Now it says it launched in 2012, but there was Bitcoin, the official magazine printed version lasted 2000, but before that, I'm pretty sure there was a digital version being done, right, in 2011, early 2012. And the CEO of this Bitcoin was Matthew N. Wright, the cougar, right, who was scouring at Bitcoin and Satoshi, right? And I didn't know about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Talk forums that Satoshi set up. I didn't know Satoshi set up BitTalk forums. And he introduced himself. I reached out to him. He reached Matthew N. Wright. He introduced himself as the CEO and founder of Bitcoin Magazine. That's who I talked to. And he goes, and I say, hey, I've got this idea. I want to talk to you about it. It involves, you know, a tokenization of, and he says, I'll have one of my developers talk to you, tell him all about it, and we'll go from there. And the first one I talked to was the name of a Spanish mathematician. He didn't spend like a minute with me. I was like, nah, I'm not in, he didn't get it, didn't understand it. He was Vladimir something, right? The second guy I talked to was this guy right here, this is Michał Lisi. And Michał Lisi and I bonded like we were brothers. And I showed him my 30-page deck, which was on Slide Rocket at the time, which now went defunct. It was acquired by Slide Clear, so I lost access to the slides. But I have a lot of images of those slides. For example, the circle, that's part of that slide. And my patent document that I was building, that I didn't have the money to do the patent because I needed about 15 grand to do the patent back then. But I made very clear that this is all my IP and wasn't to be used, and I had claim on it. And that's the thing is with IP, unless you have money to back IP, right, it's worthless. And this is why I'm sharing about Baby Zero, okay? Baby Zero AI is the starting point. And I'm just giving you the long story, my story, UnDaoDu story, how, we got to here. And look at that. Look at the sun with the rays coming out of it. And I unloaded, told him everything. And to quote him, and I have the logs, he goes, what you're doing, right, Foundups, completes what we're working on, completes. And they're working on something, the stealth program for Ethereum with Small Planet. Understand the motivation is right here on the Mayan long calendar, right? Depicted here is Matthew glaring at Satoshi. It turns out, I would find later on, he got blacklisted, banned from the Bitcoin talk, and that was his baby. After he got 5,000 posts, he got kicked off of there. He got banned. And you can read about him, and the people talk about it, like Matthew and Wright, what happened to him. He wanted to destroy. And hatred and anger is a very powerful tool for change, He wanted, and ironically, the guys that invested in, here is Lubin, the demon, staring at the twins. Who do you think the twins are? And the Winklevoss twins are the first early investors. So this became kind of a roadmap. And whereas next to Alisi is this little bunny rabbit, which also is the unicorn, which is a representation of what? Ethereum and Vitalik. So, nothing would happen. They would go off, and it wouldn't be until 2013, a couple years later, I had pivoted to doing Foundups, projects and stuff. Patreon, I can't remember if Patreon had come out yet. 2014, 13, whatever. I'd basically started working on beekeeping. I remember that, making things. That's what got me into bees, looking at bees. I went around and filmed, like, where are the bees? Monsanto made the prediction that Monsanto would go the same way as tobacco. You can see my early video on that. They did, right? And then basically Ethereum came out, and Michał Lisi accidentally butt dialed me. And I was like, hey, and I forgot who he was. He forgot who I was, I think, at the time. I would imagine. Maybe he didn't. He goes, yeah, I'm working on this. I was told what I was working on. He said, yeah, I'm working on Ethereum. And I was about to turn away, and I thought, what's Ethereum? I looked at it, and I was like, holy shit, it's the Open Innovation Framework. I got excited, called my Mike, and the rest is history. So fast forward to today, right? AI is that last frontier, I believe, right? AI is, look at that, is that last frontier. And what we're in right now is something far bigger than anything we've ever been in before. And it's just starting. It is 1990s on super steroids, not steroids, but super steroids. The disruption that AI is going to have on everything is insurmountable, and it's going to happen very quickly. Because the zero marginal cost for doing stuff is going to make a lot of things, make a lot of profit for the Ouroboros of capitalism that had now grown up, destroying fisheries, since the 17th, kind of retouch my story in the original story that was on. Destroying the world is devouring the world and devouring markets for profits. This is the last market for the Ouroboros of capitalism. And in a way, it's eating itself. Just the Ouroboros becomes a metaphor of capitalism devouring itself. It starts off in Florence, and we've gotten to a point now, if we do not change and get off the Ouroboros of capitalism, we risk everything. So how does that come about? Baby zero. Right here, baby zero. Baby zero, the AI that's going to run the fifth age, okay, is right now in the belly. Baby zero hasn't been born. And there's a lot of talk about AGI. Baby zero is AGI. How do we get to AGI? That, my friend, I have an answer to. And on 23/4/23 at 11 p.m. my time, which is 10 p.m. your time, you'll find out. UnDaoDu.